Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining our June onX Office Hours Masterclass. We'll get going in just a couple minutes here. We'll let everybody get settled in. While we're waiting, just a little bit of housekeeping. Your audio and video are turned off, so we can't see or hear you, so no worries if you have noise in the background or anything like that, not a problem. This class is being recorded, so if you have to drop off early or you want to go back and re-watch something, we'll send everybody an email tomorrow with the recording link included in it. It'll be on our YouTube page, so you can go back and watch it if you'd like. We are doing a giveaway at the end of class. We're giving away some onX Hunt t-shirts. We're going to give away about 5 of those. So make sure you stay tuned to the end of the class to get entered for that. And with that, that's pretty much all of the housekeeping, unless I'm forgetting something. So this class it's an Ask Me Anything type class. So we don't have an agenda. We don't have anything on our minds we're going to talk about. It's all going to be driven by you. So drop your questions in the Q&A box below. You've kind of got 2 options there. There's a chat and there's Q&A. Q&A is the spot for questions. Chat, they're just a little bit harder to keep track of. The way the chat's set up, they can just kind of disappear on me versus the Q&A. Chat is great if you just want to say, I see Don is checking in from Pennsylvania or wherever you are. That's great there. So let's see. Michael asks, first question in there. What is the broken blue line indicate as far as trail type? I'm not sure exactly what you're describing when you say a broken blue line. That might be, I'm wondering if you're looking at an ephemeral stream, Michael. Let me pull up my map here so that you can maybe confirm for me. Let me share my screen. So I'm in the onX Hunt app right now on the web map. I'm going to go into my topo map so we can see these easier. The only broken blue line I know of for sure, Michael, are these. So these are streams, and the solid blue lines are going to be more of a permanent stream, and the dotted or dashed ones are more ephemeral or intermittent streams, so they might be full during runoff or after a rain event, and then they dry up after that if there's no precipitation. So if that's what you're looking at, those indicate streams and intermittent streams, Michael. If that's not what you're talking about, if you could, write back in with more information or something, we can go from there. James asked, when will TerrainX be out of beta and integrated into the mobile app? That's a great question, James. I don't have an answer for you, unfortunately. I know the team is working on getting some improvements out for TerrainX before this fall hunting season kicks off. I don't believe it will be integrated into the mobile app for this fall. That's still a little ways out. There's a lot of work to be done with different aspects of the app and viewers and all kinds of different things. So unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for you, James, but hopefully we can get that going, sooner rather than later. Ralph asks, heading to Alaska to hunt caribou on the Oro Road. Never saved a MAF offline. How? Also, how big of an area can I grab? Let's do this. I'm going to switch over to my tablet here and I'll demonstrate how to save an offline map, and we'll go through some of the different sizes that you can save. So I'm switching over to an iPad here. Whether you're on an iPhone or an Android, it's going to look basically the same. Okay, there we are. Get into onX here. So Ralph, when you pull up the map, it should look something like this. In the lower left-hand corner, there's a button that says Offline Maps. Okay, it's below the one that says Hunt Map Layers. Far bottom left corner, I tap Offline Maps. Then I have an orange button that says New Map. I tap there, and if I zoom out a little bit, you can see you have a few different options for the size of your map. In Alaska, hunting off the road, I'm going to recommend 2 different sizes that you use primarily. First, start with the low resolution or low detail. That one will let you save, it's about 150 miles wide by about 200 miles north to south. It's going to depend a little bit on your specific device. The dimensions will be a little bit different than mine because every screen's a little bit different on different devices. The dimensions are, but you'll be pretty close to 150 by 200. So I'm over Montana now, but you can see you can cover a pretty big area. So what I would do, you could do the whole, if you're going off what's called the haul road, that goes all the way up to Prudhoe Bay, you could save that whole road, put it right down the middle of this map, and then stack them together so that you've got way more than you need, but that way you have everything covered along the road. So I would save a big map like this first. So I'm just going to save this one right now so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so that's going to start downloading. Then what I would do, Ralph, is I would go back in, save a new map, and I would click the medium detail. So that's going to be, as you see here, about 30 miles by 40 miles, give or take. Then what I would do, especially in the areas that you're kind of planning to hunt, is I would save these medium resolution maps. These are going to be kind of the best bang for your buck. It's what I use 90% of the time. You still get pretty good imagery resolution, and it's going to be a much bigger map than the high detail ones. You see the high detail one's a pretty small map. I think of these high detail maps for spots where maybe I'm sitting in a tree stand for whitetails, or it's a small area, I'm waterfowl hunting, something like that, where I know I'm going to be in this spot and I'm probably not going to move out of this 10 by 10 square mile box, right? For other stuff, I do the mediums, especially, if it's a road-based hunt like that, hunting caribou, they could be, you don't know where they're going to be exactly, right? So you might be doing a lot of driving, a lot of moving. Save some of these maps, and I would do the same thing I did with the low resolution. If you're hunting off the road, just line that road up if it's mostly north-south, put it right down the middle of the maps, and then just kind of grid them together and make that grid pattern with these maps, and you should be good to go there. Let's see, Ralph had a second question, but having issues lately in Safari on my laptop. Says GL not supported. I haven't seen that myself, Ralph. I use Safari on I got a MacBook here at work. Chrome does work pretty well. That's usually our recommendation. If you can try Chrome, I would say try it. Otherwise, that's not ringing a bell for me. The GL not supported message, I haven't seen that. What you can do is write into our customer support team. Their email address is help, HELP, at onxmaps.com, and they'll be able to take a look at that for you. They might have come across something like that. See, Joe asks, sometimes I lose the bottom tools on my screen, so I'm unable to mark a spot. I'm wondering if it's maybe this, Joe. So what I'm doing right now, I'm on my tablet and I'm tapping the top of my screen where it says onX Hunt Elite. If I tap that, it just worked for me a second ago. Now it won't want to work for me. You may be going into full map mode or full screen mode, Joe. Let me see if I can get it to do it for me now. This iPad's got a weird screen protector on it. It doesn't always pick up some of these unique things. Joe, I think what's happening is, I can't replicate it right now, of course. Leave it to technology when you're live. I think what's happening is you're probably going into full screen mode. Near the top of your map, there should be a button that says exit full map or exit full screen, something like that. I think that's what's going on. If you tap that, it should exit out and give you back your toolbar at the bottom. Let's see, Michael. Michael had the question earlier about the blue lines. Yes, Michael, the blue lines will indicate water of some sort, a river, creek, stream. He also asked, how do we get to landscape mode? So we don't have landscape mode right now. The app is designed only to work in portrait mode, so there's no hidden setting or anything like that to activate landscape mode at this time. Rick asked here, I'm trying to get a friend to get onX. If I send him a waypoint, will it allow him to open it and get into a trial membership? Yep, Rick. So if you send a waypoint to a friend, if you text message it to them, from the onX app, they'll receive that text message. It'll say, Rick has shared a waypoint with you. They'll click on the link. If they don't have onX downloaded, it will take them to the App Store, where it will prompt them to download and set up an account and get logged in. And then once they do all that, then they can receive that waypoint. I'm going to stop sharing here. John asked, is the 3D base map available offline with Elite? I have premium, and when I'm offline, there's a lock icon on 3D, which makes me think I just don't have access to it. So John, it's not because you're premium or Elite. It has nothing to do with membership. 3D right now is not available offline at all. It's just one of the ways that 3D map viewer is kind of built and the way it runs. We're not able to take it offline right now. I know that's something we'd like to do in the future, but if you upgrade to Elite, it's not going to change anything with 3D offline for you. So no worries there. It's something that work's got to be done on our end to make that available offline. So down the road, I know the plan is to have that available offline. We're just not there quite yet. Lou asks, sometimes I lose my offline maps from my phone. What causes this? Is it my phone or onX? Also, onX has started crashing. If I go in, clear my cache, it works again. Thoughts? So clearing a cache will cause you to lose your offline maps. That's the first thing that I'm thinking is probably happening there, Lou. Sounds like you're on an Android phone. That's typically where we see people running into issues where clearing the cache corrects that. So when you're clearing the cache on your phone, you're basically wiping all of the saved data from that app off of your phone's internal memory. So for onX, the only thing we really save to internal memory is your offline maps. So that's probably what's going on there. If you're uninstalling and reinstalling the app, that can do that. If you get a new phone, it's all kind of the same scenario where your offline maps are offloaded. The nice thing is you can, once you log back in, they'll still all be listed underneath your offline maps layer, or excuse me, your menu there. I can show you what I mean by that if I go back into my tablet. So what Lou's talking about here is, you see how some of my offline maps are downloaded, they've got the green check mark, and some have the down arrow, like this one that says Iowa, Missoula West. Those aren't downloaded. So if you're clearing your cache, that's what's going on. As far as the crashing issue, Lou, it's tough to say exactly what's causing that. Android devices are pretty variable, at least compared to iPhones. iPhones are kind of all, they're all made by Apple. There's not as much variability in them. An Android phone can be, you can have a super high-end top-of-the-line one, you can have a not super high-end top-of-the-line one, and that does make a difference in performance. So in that case, Lou, I would say shoot us an email. Our customer support team can take a look. They have some tools where they can kind of go in the back end and take a look at your device's performance and see what is causing those crashes. It may be a bug. It may be something totally unrelated to your device. That is kind of rare. More often it is a kind of a device performance issue, or it's running out of memory or something like that. Yeah, that would be my initial thoughts. So shoot us an email, help@onxmaps.com, and that should get you back up and running. Joe wrote back, said, still can't get the tools back on. Something I can do through settings. You know, Joe, I've never seen this. The only thing I've seen is the full map mode. If I go into my settings here, there's nothing here that really is like, remove a toolbar or anything like that. It's not a setting. We wouldn't build that in where you just turn off settings and it's not able to come back. You could maybe look at if your phone, if you have like it zoomed, sometimes people will have the zoom settings on their phone set differently so that they have a bigger font. I've seen that mess with kind of the user interface within the app. But otherwise, man, I'm stumped on that, Joe. I apologize. The only thing, like I said, the only thing that I can think of is that it's the full map mode. If you can take a screenshot and email it to us, I hate to keep just punting everything to our customer support team, but there's not a great way to send screenshots through Zoom. Otherwise, I'd have you just send it to me here, but Zoom doesn't really support that. So shoot an email with that screenshot to help@onxmaps.com. That'll be the best way to troubleshoot it. If we get a good screenshot, you will be able to get you straightened out and get it working for you. Barring that, if you don't want to do that, you can always do like a force close and reopen the app, or an uninstall and reinstall. That should reset everything for you. If you do uninstall and reinstall, just be aware if you do have offline maps saved, you'll need to re-download them to that device. Let's see, question from John. Any plans to combine features in onX Backcountry and or onX Off-Road with onX Hunt? I've been using Hunt for years, and I'm interested in some of the features of your other products, but it would be great if I didn't have to switch between 3 different apps. Downloading offline maps, 3 different places, having my data spread across 3 products, etc. So there's yes and no. We may be able to in the future have like some data transfer across. It's like where your waypoints you'd have an easy way to transfer them. Right now, you'd have to export them from Hunt and then import them into Backcountry or Off-Road. Beyond that, we don't have a ton of plans to like make an all-in-one app. The idea is we kind of create a specific app for specific use cases. So Hunt was our first app. It's made for hunters. Off-Road was our second app, and they don't need a lot of the stuff that hunters need. So they don't need, the game management units or the deer districts. They don't need some of those wildlife specific layers, things like that. So Off-Road has a different feature set. Same with Backcountry. So that's why we do have the 3 separate ones. Of course, there's crossover. There's people that like to hike and backcountry ski that also hunt, and there's off-roaders that also hunt, and any combination of those 3 folks. So we do have, we can discount if you have Hunt and you want to get off-road and or backcountry, you can give us a call or shoot us an email. Our customer support team will discount those additional purchases for you. But right now, no plans to make like an all-in-one app or anything along those lines. Greg asked, I'm going to go for an OTC deer tag in Wyoming this year. Is there a way to look at just OTC areas and hunts? Or excuse me, I said Greg, it's George. My apologies. There's Greg asked a question right below you, George, there. As far as Wyoming goes, unless you're a Wyoming resident, there aren't any OTC deer tags that I'm aware of. I know they just announced the draw today. The draw deadline was June 1st. They announced the draw for non-resident deer and antelope. I unfortunately didn't draw my antelope tag, so I'm mourning that loss. If you are a resident, George, we don't have like a filter that would show just your general deer units in Wyoming. I know that's most of the state for residents. I think there are a few, I should know this for Wyoming. There are a few limited entry units in Wyoming where residents do have to apply some of those, higher desired trophy type units. But beyond that, George, I would recommend take a look at our hunt research tools. That's available if you have an elite membership. That kind of gives you breakdowns of the tags and different units and things like that. But without knowing your residency, if you're not a Wyoming resident, I'm not aware of any OTC opportunities in Wyoming. Greg asked, I remember mention of the app being able to be used for Android Auto. Haven't been able to do that. Is it still coming? So we actually released Android Auto about a month or two ago, Greg. So it is available right now. What you need to do is make sure you have the most up-to-date version of the app on your phone. So if you're not sure if you're on the most up-to-date version of the app, go into the Google Play Store, search for onX Hunt. If there's an update available, you'll see a button that says update. Go ahead and tap that. That will update you to the most current version of the app. You do always want to be on the most current version just so that you can make sure you have the latest and greatest features and performance improvements. And then once you connect your phone to the head unit in your vehicle, you should see the onX Hunt icon pop up there, assuming everything's up to date. And then you should be able to tap on it and it will mirror your phone and show you where you are on the map on that head unit there. John asked, got a feature request, a back button. So many times I'm zoomed into a specific spot looking around, I accidentally tap the crosshair button that take me to my current location. That's a new one, John, and I have done the exact same thing. That's a great idea. So I will note that down and I will make sure to, I'll get that in the hands of the proper engineering team, the folks that would be in charge of making that button. I can't promise anything on the feasibility of that, whether it's even possible, with the current software and things like that, or what it would take to build it, but I will definitely pass that along. I can see the utility of that. Let's see, Robert asked, what is the purpose of the lightly shaded areas like the gray, green, blue? I can zoom through the gray and see clearly, but not the greenish areas. The greenish shaded areas stay foggy. Are these settings I can get out of? So this is a hard one for me to troubleshoot for sure without knowing exactly what you're looking at, but I'm gonna pull up my map here again and see. So as far as green and blue areas, I'm guessing you're talking about, what you're seeing on my map here, like this blue area and this green area. These are showing public lands, government lands. Blue is state land. So if I click on it, it tells me, this is state of Montana land. For green, that's going to be Forest Service, tells me Lolo National Forest. So if that's what you're seeing, Robert, as far as green and blue, if you don't want those on, when you zoom in, it does become more transparent. It is designed to fade out as you zoom. So as I zoom farther out, it's more green. As I zoom in, it kind of fades away and you don't really notice it. If you just want to turn those off, you go into your layers, click on the state you're in this case it's Montana, and turn off the government lands layer. So as I toggle that off and on, you can see the change on my map. Just don't forget that you've turned it off, because we don't want you to, you're looking for some public lands and can't find it. Just remember that you've turned that layer off. As far as gray area, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by gray. I can't think of any layer off the top of my head that puts a gray coloration on the map. But what I would recommend is if you click on the area, if you're on mobile, just tap on it. That'll bring up this menu. And if it's a layer that's turned on, most of the layers will show up in this menu. It will tell you whether it's a historic wildfire, whether it's an area where crops are planted, or government lands or things of that nature. I suppose it could be, I think gray might be Corps of Engineer land. We don't have a ton of that around me in Western Montana. So it might be Corps of Engineer or Bureau of Reclamation, something like that, especially if you're around water, a reservoir, something like that. But if you click on it, it should tell you what that is. If you want to remove it, go into your layers and turn that one off. See, Michael asked, when will Montana announce the antelope draw results? So archery antelope draw results came out yesterday. The rifle antelope draw results, Michael, are always out. It's early to mid-August. I think it's usually kind of around that second week of August is the rifle antelope draw results. I'm waiting on them myself. Actually, my brother and I applied as a party. It would be his first antelope hunt, so I'm hoping we draw, but we've got basically 2 months to wait, unfortunately. I think that's about the last draw to get announced as far as the western states go. Good question from David. Sorry if I already covered this, but can I link my Tacticam reveal camera to my onX Hunt app on my iPhone? Not at this time, David. Right now, the only 3 trail cameras that integrate with the onX Hunt app, the 3 brands are Bushnell, Covert, and Exodus. So those 3 will integrate with onX, and you can view your images right in the onX app. Tacticam hasn't joined up yet. We would love to work with as many trail camera companies as we can. There's other conversations that happen, on the business side of things. It's got to make sense for everybody. So hopefully we can get Tacticam. They make some awesome cameras, and they're one of the biggest manufacturers out there. So hopefully we can get Tacticam on board at some point, but not right now. Michael asks, this is a question we've been getting a lot through our customer support channels. Block management updates. So Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks typically updates the block management areas first week of August. For some reason, I have like August 8th in my head. It's usually around that date, give or take, first, second week of August. Once they update, then we're able to bring that data in-house and get it updated on our side. So we've got to wait for Fish, Wildlife, and Parks to update all their information. Once they do that, we get it in ours. So we're typically around that same time, give us a couple of days after they update for us to get everything in ours. Same goes for, we always hear about the Kansas WIHA, as it's called, walk-in hunter access. That's around the same time frame, August. So we just got to wait for the state to update their information, and then we'll get it updated on ours. So folks have other questions. That's the last one in the Q&A there. Don't be afraid to drop them in there. We've got another half hour or so. If you have questions, I'm happy to stay on here. Let's see, looks like there might be a couple in the chat. Knox had asked one in the chat. How to remove a content folder that does not have any content in it? Well, let me see if I have one here. So here are some folders. I'm going to make a new folder, Knox, see if I can see what you're seeing. Just going to name it test. So here's a folder that doesn't have any content in it, Knox. If I tap, so I'm going to back up. I'm going to go into my content. I'm going to click this folder that has 0 items in it. Okay, I see there's no waypoints, tracks, areas, lines, routes, notes, nothing. In the lower right-hand corner, Knox, there's these ellipses. Click on that. I can either share, add content, rename, or delete. If I hit delete, you can see that folder is gone. So hope that answers your question there. All right, Jesse asked, not familiar with the trail camera feature. Can you explain how this works in the onX app? Yes. Let me switch over to my mobile app here. So it's going to depend a little bit on your trail camera, Jesse. So I have a Bushnell one that's out right now. I actually have to go pull it. I'm probably going to hike up there this weekend and pull it out and reposition it. I was hoping to find some elk on it and didn't get too many pictures of elk, so I need to move it to a new spot. So if you have, we'll use Bushnell, for example, because that's what I've used the most, I'm most familiar with. If you have a Bushnell cell camera and you place it out in the woods You can integrate the Bushnell app with onX. You'll see that option in there within the Bushnell app. Once you place the trail camera, you got it all set up, you mark it and activate it in your Bushnell app, you're able to send that information over to onX, and a trail camera icon will appear on your screen, and it will act just like if you do it manually. I'm doing a horrible job of explaining this. It'll make sense in a minute. But once you have that, it'll show up on onX, and then all of your pictures from your Bushnell camera it'll go to your Bushnell app like it normally does. It will also go to your onX app. So you can click on that trail camera in the onX app and view all of your images. The other way to do this, and I'm also going to do this some this weekend. I'm just going to go over to a random area here and zoom in a bit. So let's say I'm going to put a trail camera right here, right on this tree. I'm going to go into Tools. Actually, I'm going to go, yep, there it is. Add trail camera. Okay, so I tap Add trail camera. It's going to ask for information. Just like I tell people with waypoints and other markups, put information on here. The more information you can put in, the better. So I have a mole tree camera I want to test out this year. So I'm going to just going to name this one Mole Tree 1. Brand, Mole Tree. Model, I don't remember the exact model. I'm going to leave that blank right now. This is a cellular camera. It takes 16 batteries, which, let me tell you, if you're buying 16 lithium batteries for your cell cameras, this gets expensive fast. I'm not looking forward to that. SD card capacity, let's just say I have a 32 in there. I hit next. Where is this trail camera? Let's say I placed it. It's in the field. It's going to ask you when you placed it. So if you already have one out there, you can choose a different date. Let's just say I placed it today. Hit save. So then when I click on it, it looks kind of like a waypoint, but it functions different, right? So I can go in and I can still edit this information. So I can change the icon color. You might want to do that. I can set the direction the camera is facing, which might be helpful. Let's say I have this one pointing south, which I probably don't want to do in the summer because I'm gonna get a lot of pictures of sunsets and things like that. But let's just say I did it. And there we are. So as this camera sits there, it'll tell me, you know, this is when you last changed the batteries. This is when you last changed the SD card. It's been at this location for so many days. You have all of that information. You can go in and manually add photos. So when I pull an SD card or I pull them off of my phone, if I have them, you know, cellularly sent there, I can upload them manually here. That is the nice part. If you have a Bushnell, a Covert, or an Exodus, those will automatically show here, which is pretty cool. But for, you know, like Moultrie, Tacticam, some of the other brands we're not integrated with yet, you do have to do it manually. And then you can also see history. So if you move your camera around, but you still want to see all of the information about it, as I move this camera and place it in different spots, it'll say first placement, second placement, third placement, etc. Right now, first and current, they're the same because that's the first and only place it's been. And according to what I've told the app, it's still there, right? We are going to do a more in-depth, we're planning a more in-depth trail camera class later this summer, looking at late July, mid-August, sometime in there. So if you're a person that runs a lot of trail cameras, you want to learn more about it, we are going to do like a full hour on trail cameras later this summer. Let's see, question from Van. How do you send, receive, share waypoints? Good question. Let me find a waypoint here. So I just tapped on this waypoint on my map. It's going to bring up this menu about it. In the bottom, along the bottom of my screen, I have a whole bunch of buttons that say edit, share, go to waypoint. I'm going to tap share. And then you have two options, share with a link or share nearby. So share with a link is the most common way to share a waypoint. That is going to be, if I hit next, this is a tablet, so I'm not going to have a text message option here. I could email it to somebody. I could copy the link and paste it in a Facebook message or something. But once you hit share, you'll be prompted. You can email it, you can text. Text is the most common. It'll ask you who you want to text it to, and from there it's just basically like sending a text message to somebody. You send it to them. On their end, they'll get a notification that you've sent a waypoint to them. They'll open up their text messages. There's a link there. They will tap on it. That will open up the onX app on their side. It will ask if they want to add the waypoint to their map. If they do, they'll say yes, and that waypoint will be placed on their map. So the nice part with that is they can't really do anything with that waypoint beyond receiving it. It's view only. If you've ever shared like a Google Doc with somebody and didn't give them permission to edit, you know what that's like, where they can view it and read it, but they can't make any changes to it. So they can't send it to somebody else, for example. That's kind of the big one. If you send a waypoint to somebody, you control who has access to it, and you can revoke access later if you so choose. So hope that answered your question there on sharing. Alan asks, can you change the historical image on satellite view? In other words, can you change from years and or seasons? So yes and no, Alan. We do have, excuse me, I'm gonna take a drink here. I'm starting to lose my voice. We do have a recent imagery option within the app. So you do have to be an elite member to have this feature. But in the lower right-hand corner of my map screen, if you see the button that says SAT and 2D, I'm going to tap on that. And then I have my different base map options. If I click recent imagery, this is imagery that is taken every 2 weeks. So it'll go back as long as we have had this feature available, which was last spring. So it's last March, April is how far back we can go. So it is, the trade-off with this recent imagery is it's updated more frequently, but it's lower resolution because it's taken by satellites versus like a plane flying over. So it does give you a good, if I get up to the rattlesnake here, higher elevation, it does give you a good indication to be able to check things like snow levels. So in the lower left-hand corner of my map, you see the date there with the arrows. That's telling me when the image was taken. And I can scroll back, and sometimes when it was flown over like this one, there was clouds. But you can see the changing snow levels as we go back. If I go all the way back to fall, there's no snow in October. So that's the way you can do that. We don't have a way, like Google Earth does, where you can go back a long time and see those different subsets. We don't have that type of imagery available, but you can use this recent imagery feature. And as long as we have it, you're going to be able to go back. So every 2 weeks, there's another image added, so you can kind of go back that way. I find it super useful for checking snow levels during spring bear season to see if I can get into areas. In the fall, when I'm pheasant hunting, check the crop harvest. Is the corn all still standing? Has it been harvested? Check water levels for duck hunting, things like that. Oh, Robert, who was talking about the gray, blue, and green, it was the precipitation radar setting he had turned on. I should have thought of that. So this is a common thing we hear about, is this precipitation radar layer. So we've got kind of a stormy day here in western Montana. So if you're ever, this is for everybody watching, if you're ever looking at your map and you're like, man, it looks like a weather screen, or I don't know what's going on, it's a precipitation radar layer. So which can be a useful layer to check, your hunt area, what's the weather doing, but it's one of those layers that I turn on and get a sense of things and then turn off right away. I typically don't leave this one turned on because it does obscure the map quite a bit. So happy we figured that out, Robert. Let's see, John asked, could you show the best way to map boundaries on the mobile app for properties that don't have correct boundaries in the app? So if you notice something wrong, John, the first thing I would request is that you report that to us. So if you bought a parcel or sold something, or a property boundary has changed and it's not updated in the onX app just yet, please report that to us. I'll show you how to do that. So I'm just gonna pick this square parcel in the middle of my map here. I'm gonna tap on it. Pulls up this menu that tells you all about the land ownership information, yada, yada, yada. Along the bottom of my screen, there's a button that says report an error. If you don't see this on your side on a phone, sometimes it gets cut off. You may have to slide these options over. They'll slide where it says add folder share. You may have to just drag it with your finger. But I'm gonna tap report an error. This is private land. If the boundary is incorrect, I'm gonna hit next. And if I know, hey, this parcel was subdivided, or the boundaries are shifted, it's not in the right spot, it needs to be moved south, something like that. Type that in there. That'll help our mapping team know exactly what's wrong. When our mapping team receives this error report, they will verify it typically with your county tax assessor's office. That's who holds these records for the boundaries and things like that. We go and verify with them. Once we get a data set from them or hear back from them, like, yep, what the customer's saying, is accurate, then we'll get the change made on our end. So that's the first thing I would say. If you just want to draw a boundary on the map, whether it's to show a new property line or anything else, one way to do that, John, is to go into your tools. It's on the bottom of my map screen. It's the icon that looks kind of like a Swiss Army knife. I'm going to tap on that. And then there's a couple different tools you can use. For this one, I'm going to use the area shape. So now I have this crosshair on my map. Let's just say I know this parcel was subdivided. I can tap the drop a point. Let's try to find the middle here as close as we can. Drop a point. Oops. Tap too close to that one. So you could do that. You could draw an area shape over there to show that subdivision or that change of boundary. The other thing you can do, John, is you could use the line distance tool. Very similar. So now, let me go back in here. I closed out accidentally. I could drop this point. I could drop this point. Okay, I did a poor job of lining those up, but you get the idea. So you can use that line distance tool to kind of draw a perimeter, if you want to make it however you want to make it, right? That would be another way to do it. So either of those tools, but if you do see something that's incorrect, let us know and let us fix it for you. I think that's the best solution for everybody. Let's see, anonymous attendee says, without a trail camera, how can I tell what time deer are using a bedding area? $1 million question there. I'm not the world's greatest deer hunter, to be honest with you. Typically deer are going to be most active daylight and dusk. They're going to be bedded middle of the day. This is all generalities. When it's the rut, kind of throw everything out the window. But for, September, for example, as long as they're not rutting in your area in September, I know some places like South Florida have crazy rut dates. But to know when a deer is using a bedding area without a trail camera, the best option is to observe them if you can. It's If you're able to get into your hunt area this summer and set up some binoculars or a spotting scope and watch those bedding areas and see, sometimes easier said than done. A lot of times deer like to bed in really thick cover, but you might be able to set up on those entry and exit routes to see when they're leaving the food source, when they go to the bedding area. Okay, I know they're in there by mid-morning most days, and then, watch when they leave. That's my amateur opinion on how to tell when a deer is using a bedding area. Hope that helps. Let's see, John had a clarification on, he says he's checked with the county on his property line. They know it's all messed up, no end in sight. Yeah, that's an unfortunate there, John. Some counties are fantastic. Some of the counties that we work with, some counties are not as quick to respond to error reports, unfortunately. I think there's 3,100 county or county equivalents in the United States. So as you can imagine, it runs the gamut from, hey, we'll get this fixed tomorrow, to it might be months or years down the line before they get it fixed. That's a tough scenario to be in. Let's see, Don had written in about Joe losing his tools. Is it possible he's expanded the map using fingers and lost the toolbar at the bottom? I don't think that's a possibility, Don, because if I expand my map all the way in, the toolbar doesn't change, but certainly appreciate the suggestion. Let's see. Randall asks, doesn't seem to be much information for my Delta Junction moose hunt in Alaska. I don't know what information you're looking for, Randall. Kind of hard for me to answer that without some more information as far as what you want to see, what you're missing, what's going on there as far as what type of information you're looking for. If you can type in and let us know what you'd like to see, I can probably better help answer this question. All right, I'm going to stop sharing right now, and I am going to post the giveaway link in the chat. We've got about 10 minutes or so. So in the chat right now, I've posted the giveaway link. That will be live until midnight tonight. We're just asking for your name, your shipping address, and your shirt size so we can draw those winners. I'll draw those winners tomorrow and send you an email sometime tomorrow, mid-morning. We're mountain time here, so 9, 10 o'clock Montana time, and we'll get those shirts sent out to you as well. If you're watching this class after it's been recorded, that giveaway link is no longer working, so you're not able to enter the giveaway, but join us on a future class, and we do giveaways on just about all of these. All right, Randall wrote back in. He was talking about the moose hunt. Property owners and boundaries. Let me see. I'm not familiar with Alaska, so let me see if I can get my map to Delta Junction. Don't know off the top of my head where that is. So let me see here. Turn on my Alaska layers. Let me do it on my computer. It's probably easier, to be honest, since I'm right here. And let me find Delta Junction. All right. Let me share my map, Randall here. So I just searched Delta Junction. Here's the town. I'm going to make sure my Alaska, got private lands, game management units, government lands turned on. So I'm seeing the government lands here. Most of this is going to be, let's see, state land, state forests. Okay, looks like there's some native corporation lands there. Okay, looks like, is that BLM maybe? Or it's Native Corporation, BLM land. Okay, and then I know in the town, we have some property ownership boundaries, but we don't have ownership names. So what's happening in Alaska, as I'm sure everyone's aware, much more remote country, and Alaska doesn't use counties, they have a borough system. So since Alaska is so remote, a lot of the boroughs don't have a complete ownership map for us. You see this with some counties in the lower 48 as well. There's one county in Washington, Whitman County, we hear about all the time. There's a handful in Colorado, some in the UP of Michigan, some in central South Dakota, New Mexico. There's a few of those counties where we don't have full land ownership, private land ownership information. And it's not that the information is there and we're just saying, meh, we don't want it. It's that in this case, the borough is not able to provide us with that data. They don't have it digitized fully. You can see they've got some, more around the town where you're probably not hunting moose. I understand that. The good news is we do have all of the public lands. So if you're hunting, state land, national forest, things like that, we do have that information. Unfortunately, we don't have the full property ownership up there. If and when they make it available, we'll be able to put it in there, but we're just a lot of times it's a staffing or a funding issue where they just don't have the resources to digitize all of that data and make it publicly available. Let's see, Joe said he was having the issue with his tools earlier, said logging off and logging back in fixed it. Happy to hear that, Joe. If it does pop up again, let us know, because if that's something that's happening unintentionally, we want to know about it so we can fix it and prevent it. But I'm happy it's working for you now. All right, we're at 4:52 here, so we got about 8 minutes or so. If people have any more questions, I'm happy to stay on. Make sure you do get entered into that giveaway. We're giving away some t-shirts there. And then otherwise, I guess I'll give it another minute or so if anybody else wants to. Randall says link you posted earlier. The giveaway link, Randall, it should still be in the chat. I'll post it one more time. I'm also just going to type it in my answer to you. Now you should have it, Randall. So the giveaway link's in the chat one more time. And then I guess with that, last call. If there are no other questions, we'll end this one. And I'll just thank everybody for joining us tonight. If you have any other questions that come up that right after, like happens so often of, man, I should have thought of that, shoot us an email to help@onxmaps.com. We have a full team of customer support folks that answer those questions. I think they're on 7 days a week emails now, for sure, Monday through Friday. I know they ramp up towards hunting season and we have more folks on the weekends and things like that. But shoot us an email. They'll be able to answer any questions that you have. And do take a look at our upcoming Masterclass schedule. We have some cool classes coming up. If you're a dog person, we've got some preseason training ones coming up in July. We're going to start rolling on some of our more kind of hunting topic specific ones, whether they be, trail cameras or Western big game, whitetails, things like that as we get closer to hunting season. So keep your eye on that schedule. And with that, thanks again and hope to see everybody on the next one.